Hey guys, what's up? So today we're doing another Theater of Blood Learners tutorial, and this time I will be going as the North Freezer. So I will be freezing the north side crabs on the first boss, Maiden. And you can see we're setting up our party right now, and we have both of our mages. Our South Freeze is Invictus, he's first, and I am second in the party order as the North Freeze. And that'll be important later on. But for now, the important thing to note with our mage setup, which I'll be showing on screen right now, is that assuming you have Void, you need at least 54 positive magic attack bonus. And that's because assuming you're wearing Void and you are using Augury, 54 magic attack bonus is going to give you a 100% hit rate when you're freezing the crabs, and you'll never accidentally splash. But beyond that, we're all bringing a sub 500 mil setup. Everyone's in extremely budget gear, and they're all very similar inventory setups to what I have on screen right now. But we just potted up, and we're gonna send it. And that very first boss in the Theater of Blood is Maiden. And our two roles, so my role specifically, I'm the North Freezer, and we also have a South Freezer, and they deal with the crabs. The crabs at 70%, 50%, and 30% health. So we're going into the boss, and we're going to drop an inventory slot so that I can make room for my BGS special when I need to equip that, and we're all going to be spamming the gate. Everyone's spamming the gate, and the South Freeze is the one who engages, and that gets us all in on the first tick. And we're going to start with that Dragon Warhammer special into a BGS. And don't stand in the blood like I do. So she spits blood. She'll always spit blood. It's at random intervals. You don't necessarily know when she's going to do it, and that's why we do this flinch action. You can see me flinching right there, and she's getting close to 70% health. So we get back, and we switch into that mage gear, and we get ready to freeze. We have Augury on, right? And as soon as these crabs spawn, we're going to do 1, 2, and 3. So we didn't have a 1 or 2, so we catch these 3s. And if we get them good like that, where they're kind of standing next to each other, we can catch our 4s as well. But as the North Freeze, our role is to be hitting those first 1, 2, 3 crabs. And the South Mage will take care of the rest. But when the crabs are down, we get back on the boss, and we don't need to get back into our melee gear. We can stay in our mage gear and be ready for those 50 crabs. So check this out. Here come the 50 crabs, and we can sacrifice a little DPS. We're going to get 1, 2, and we're going to get that third one as well. And there we go. And this is why the orb order is important, is because when we're first in line, or we're actually first and second in the orb order, we take priority on aggro. So if we run into the boss like this while we're dealing with the crabs, we're actually taking the aggro off of our melee DPS tank. Which is why the orb order is important, because when we're close to the boss, we take the aggro off of the other players. So, as the mage, our role is also to be freezing these tomatoes, right? We don't want them roaming around, creating blood splat all over the ground. So, our top priority is not necessarily DPSing the boss, but keeping everything in check with our freezes. And here come 30. So, we grab that 1, 2, 3. And our other mage, our South Mage, will get 4, but you can see right there, they grab 4, but we're going to deal with that cluster and get into melee range so we can take some of that tanking off of our melee and range DPS. So if we stay in melee range, the 2 mages will automatically take that aggro. But after the crabs are down for the 3rd time, we just all get on the boss. You can see we have special attack bars, so it's fine right now. We can be dumping our claw specs. We could be dumping our chalice. So here we go. We're going to dump that claw spec. Boom. And we do have that last chalice spec. Boom. And she's down. And the first boss of the Theater of Blood is done. And we're heading into Bloat. And Bloat's the second boss of the Theater of Blood. So we're going to pick up our potion that we dropped earlier before we entered the room. And at this point we do a salve check. We either call out on voice comms or say to our party, don't forget your salve, right? Salve check. And we're going to throw that on. And that is a huge DPS increase for Bloat, and because we're bringing the pink salve, we can just drop it when we're done with this room. We can have unlimited amount of pink salves in our bank, and that'll open up another inventory slot for supplies later on. And this time we're actually going to enter the room first as the major, because the major's role in Bloat is oftentimes to use a BGS, lower his defense. And there are methods where we can be using like the drive-by DPS or the drive-by BGS method, but we're not going to do that here. So we're going to wait for him to go down, and as soon as he goes down, we're going to hit him with that first BGS spec. So here we go. We'll pot up. We're going to hit him with a BGS. And after that, we're going to go into 3 whips. So here we go. 1 whip. 2 whip. And after this 3rd whip, we'll get that chally off. So slap him with the chally. Boom. And run. Take off. Now you definitely want to get at least behind the corner. Otherwise, you take a nice fat 70 like Invictus had just there. Maybe it was Cigar, but he's getting hit by flies. So here's the thing. If you accidentally mess up, if you get hit by a stomp or you get hit by flies, you know, just play safe. You can brew up. If you have an angler, eat it. Don't hang out at low HP, because what happens if you're hanging out at low HP thinking to yourself, oh, I'm not going to mess up again, and then you can see right there, Kimbo accidentally gets hit by flies and spreads them. And if you're hanging out at really low HP, you know, somebody else could accidentally PK you. And there's no need for that to happen. That would be a senseless death. So just drink an extra sip of brew, right? There's no point to be hanging out at such low HP. We have plenty of supplies. If you're really trying to speed run it, I guess then there's a good excuse. But if we're just trying to get our very first couple KC in the Theater of Blood, there's no point in staying such low health. See, this is a botched bloat. There's flies going all over the place. People are spreading flies. And this happens in real runs. This happens when you're running live with either randoms in 416 or even randoms that you just partied up with for a single run. People will spread flies. It happens. So don't get PK'd. And don't accidentally PK somebody else, but at the same time, keep your health a little high. Don't let it be hanging out at like literally like 10 or 20 health, right? Because accidents will happen, and you don't want to get mad when they do. So when Bloat goes down, we'll restock at the supply chest. We can either grab some brews, some hard food, and if you didn't bring a stamina like I did, you're going to want to bring a stamina as well. This is the time where you want to bring your stamina potion. But as the North Mage, it's actually interesting. When we go into Nylo, our main DPS role as the North Mage is going to be melee. We are going to be helping the melee DPS for the most part when dealing with Nylo. So we're going to keep our melee gear on, and if we have nothing to do, right, if all the melees are down and we have absolutely nothing to do, then we can throw on a one-way or a two-way mage swap, and we can help our major. He will be needing help, but the South Mage is going to be on mage duty full-time, and we're more like backup support. So you can see that I do have these numbers above the crab's heads. And that shows me what wave they're on, and that's actually called the Nylower plugin. So if you want to get those numbers that show the wave of the crabs, you can get that Nylower plugin. And I think it's really nice because not only does it show you what wave you are on, but it keeps it keeps you in the mindset that there's 31 total waves. So you know when we're getting close to the end, you know when crunch time is here, right? So we're on wave 11 right now, and we're ultimately going to be going all the way up to wave 31. That'll be the final wave. And like I said, we are on main priority melee duty, and we help the mage when possible. We will offer a little bit of mage support, but for the most part, we are on melee DPS duty. And that's why you want that stamina, because luckily our range DPS did do a pot share. Our range DPS pot shared some stamina potion before we entered the room. But if the range DPS didn't do that, forgot they needed to do that, just didn't know they needed to do that, right? You're going to want your own stamina potion, and this is the big room that it's for, along with Verzik in the end. But you're definitely going to want to use a stamina dose for the Nylo room, especially if you're on melee DPS duty, or melee crab duty, I should say. Right? But we're getting toward the end. We're approaching wave 20, and at this point, the pillars are going to start being kind of full with crabs. There's going to be a lot of crabs on the pillars. And if you see a giant cluster, specifically of blue crabs, right, as the mage DPS, because you have those freezes, you can always throw a barrage. right? So the South Mage is mostly going to be the one doing the barraging, but you as the North Mage have that option as well. You do have freeze spells on you. So throw those freezes out if you see a good opportunity to hit 2 or 3 crabs all at the same time. Maybe you can even hit 4. Get that nice wombo combo off. But like I said, we are on melee duty, and when you see those crabs kind of hanging out in the middle of the room like we do right now, those are aggro crabs. They're aggressive, and they're hitting your buddies, doing little bits of chip damage to them. So you can always, you want to prioritize those aggro crabs that are hanging out at the center and they're not really at one of the pillars, because they are doing chip damage to the team. But you can see right now, wave 30 is coming in, and the final wave is 31, so we're working on just cleanup. None of our pillars are very close to falling, so we're just going to be cleaning up all those white crabs. We can do a little flinch away from the pillar right there, right? You don't want those crabs to be popping on you. If they pop on you while you're standing next to them, if they just expire, they do like some explosion chip damage as well. But yeah, none of our pillars were close to falling, and you really just want to stay with your roll. You don't have to be really sweaty about it, but when the boss spawns, you're going to be ready in your mage gear, or I mean your melee gear. I'm sorry, he always spawns melee. And we're going to start with 2 BGS specials. So here we go, BGS special 1 into BGS special 2. And throw on that whip and get ready to change your prayer. So he goes into his mage phase. So we throw mage pray on first and then our gear. And then range pray on and then our range gear. So our top priority is always switching our prayers first, right? Switch into melee prayer and then switch into melee gear and try to get those 2 hits off. Here we go. Switch into the range prayer and then switch into the range gear and try and get a couple of those blow pipe hits off, or those T-bow hits, or whatever you're using. But the top priority is always to change your prayer first. You don't want to accidentally get hit by one of his big off-prayer attacks. They could hit really, really hard. And as long as we're switching our prayer first as our top priority, and we started the engage at close to full health, we shouldn't really need to worry about healing or brewing or even bringing a Sang staff and worrying about our Sang healing us, right? Because if we're switching our prayers on time, if we're switching our prayers as soon as we see him switch attack styles, our HP should stay relatively high throughout this boss encounter. So Nylo is getting close to going down, and we just want to stay focused on swapping our prayers as fast as possible. We don't need to do the full 4-way or 5-way or 6-way swap to get that first hit off. You can do a 2-way swap and then just finish off your full switch after that. But the Nylo boss is down and we're heading into Sote. And you can see in the chat down there, everyone's calling out their corner. Everyone wants to have their own specific designated corner for Sote. And this will be your corner actually for the rest of the raid, for the next 3 bosses. And I specifically called Southwest 1-2. So I'll be taking the Southwest corner tile, and I will be Dragon Warhammering the boss on Phase 1 and Phase 2. So this is Phase 1. We're going to get that Dragon Warhammer off. Boom. And then we switch into our whip, and we're just going to start whipping the boss. And as a learner, you have 2 options. You can either camp Mage Pray and switch accordingly, or you can try to camp Melee Pray and switch into Mage or Range after that. But here's why I suggest camping Mage Pray, and that's because Sote will always only throw magic balls or melee attacks. He actually doesn't throw range balls. Range balls are always bounced off of mage balls. Right, so you can see, let's see if he throws a mage ball, and we can see it bounce. So if he throws a mage ball, it will bounce into a second mage ball and a range ball. But here we go, we're going into the Shadow Realm, and one person is in the Shadow Realm, and they're going to show us the very first tile to stand on. So there's that first tile, and then he's going to lead us safely to the 3rd row. And it's no rush, and once everyone's there, we can send it, and the guy in the Shadow Realm sends it. And he doesn't need to be tick perfect. It's not a race. He doesn't need to go as fast as possible. He needs to have steady footwork. Steady and accurate footwork, not speedy footwork. You don't need to be racing unless you're going for speed time. But let's watch these balls bounce, right? Because when a mage ball hits you, that's... Watch Kimbo over there, top right, right? See that mage ball hit him, and it broke off into a range ball. So the range balls will always be bounced, okay? Now, when you get that big red Sote orb, you want to stack up on the head, split that damage up like we did right there, and then get back into your designated corner. And our goal right now is to get him down to 33% health, and he's going to go into the Shadow Realm for that one last time. And actually, in this example, we're going to show what it's like to be in that shadow realm because he's taken me. Check it out, boys. So we're going to show that first tile. We're always going to show that first tile. And then we're going to walk to the third row. So here we go. We're going to walk to the third row. And when everyone's ready to go, we can send it. And we don't need to go fast. See, look at all this walking. We don't need to be going fast. Now here's a corner movement, another tiny corner, and this right there is an L. So that's an L movement right there. So you can do either corner movements, L movements, or quite honestly, you can even just do straight lines while you're learning. But those are the 3 different movement patterns that you can use when you're guiding your team through the Sote Shadow Realm maze. But that was it. We're in the final phase of the fight. People have used their Dragon Warhammers. We've lowered him down. If you have special attack at this point and his defense has been lowered, you can either drop a Claw, drop a Chally. It kind of depends on what ring you have. That's gonna, that's gonna depend on how much special attack bar you have left. But Sote's going down, and if you get that big red ball a second time, be prepared to stack up on his head a second time and DD for the ball. But we're going into Xarpus, the 5th room in the fight, or the 5th room in the raid. And at this point, this is our last chance to be buying supplies. So we need to fully stack up our inventory right now, so get plenty of brews. And I like to bring at least, while learning, 4 super restores. So we're going to grab those 4 super restores and a hard food. So I'll grab that shark. So I got 7 brews, 4 super restores. Do not forget your stamina potion. At this point, if you don't have a stamina potion, you absolutely need one. If you forgot to buy one earlier, you need a stamina potion at this point. And maybe a hard food or 2. But we're going into Xarpus. And Xarpus phase 1 is really easy. We're all going to keep our same designated corners that we did last time. So I was southwest, right? And all we got to do for phase 1 is stand on those exhumes. So he makes those ugly green tiles, and we're going to stand on them, and we're going to prioritize southwest. So everyone just kind of prioritizes their corner. If for some reason you get 2 exhumes in the same corner, you can go and share and help. So see, look, Invictus has a lot going on up there, so we're going to go and meet him. And then when it kind of calms down and those exhumes disappear, just get back down to your corner, right? So your corner is priority, and you can go help your buddies in their corners if they start getting overwhelmed, right? But after this phase 1, we're going to be ready to Dragon Warhammer the boss into a BGS. So here we go. We're going to go get set up, and we're going to start with a Dragon Warhammer and go into a BGS. Boom, Dragon Warhammer. BGS, and then we get off to the perimeter and we throw on our range gear. So we'll be using a blowpipe, and you don't need to be learning scythe walk as a beginner. You can learn your scythe walk, you can learn your whip walk, but as a beginner it's really easy to just learn this range method. And this room is going to start getting hectic, right? There's going to be slime everywhere, but what you want to know is that every time Xarpus looks at you, see he's looking at me right now, this is when you want to move 2 tiles. So you just need to move 2 tiles away when Xarpus looks at you. That's the only time you need to move. And you can see right here, me and Cigar, we're starting to get close to each other. So instead of running toward him, I'm going to actually double back around. I'm just going to start going back the way I came, moving 2 tiles apart. And at this point, I'm almost starting to trap myself because now I'm headed toward Invictus. So you got Invictus up there, you got Cigar below me, and it looks like I'm getting trapped, but what I can do is just double back on myself again. So every time Xarpus looks at me, I can either... I always want to move 2 tiles, right? But I can either move toward a buddy or double back on myself and keep myself some room. But I don't want to get too close to my friend. So at this point, I'm going to start walking my way back again. She looks at me, and I'm going to start heading south again, right? But when he reaches sub 30% health, he's about to scream. So here comes a big screech. There it is. And he enters the 3rd phase of the fight, which is where we put our melee gear back on. And at this point, we want to hit the boss when he's not looking at our quadrant. So we stay on these nice little quadrant tiles, right? And we can get a hit or 2 off when he's not looking at us. So if you're using a whip, you can always get 2 hits off when he's not looking at you. And if you're using a scythe, you cannot always get 2 hits off. Sometimes you can. Sometimes you can get those 2 hits off. But there are situations, especially if you're being tick perfect on your attacks, where you can only get 1 hit off. But for whip, you can get 2 hits off every time when he's not looking at you, as long as you're staying on tick. right? If you hit him while he's looking at you, you're basically going to get one shot. And you can see that happen to Kimbo right there. He got hit a 68 because he attacked the boss while the boss was looking at him. So the important thing, it's not a DPS race. Go slow. Pay attention to the quadrant you're on and the quadrant he's looking at, and just get those hits off when you feel capable of doing so. But we're going into the last phase of the fight, and you can see everyone just grabbed a staff. There was a staff on the ground on that little skeleton right there, and you do not want to be entering Verzik before someone grabs that staff. If you enter Verzik and no one grabbed that staff, you're going to have a really bad time. It's probably a wipe. But at this point, I'm dropping a few spare supplies on the ground. And the supplies are for your buddies in case you accidentally wipe or if you accidentally die or mess up. The supplies that you drop on your ground, your friends can pick up for you. Okay? But at this point, the orb order matters again. So this is the second point in the raid where the order of the party matters and the orb order matters. And us, as the North Freeze, we are second orb order. So the South Mage is going to start. You can see Invictus up there as the South Mage has the staff and he's ready to go. And he's going to get 2 special attacks off on the boss, and then he's going to drop the staff to us, and we're going to get our special attacks off. So here we go. We're waiting for the staff, and as soon as it drops, we pick it up. There we go, and it was a little slow on the drop, so we're actually only going to get 1 special attack off, and then drop it for our buddy, and we're going to go in the orb order. So first it was Invictus, then me, and then it was the range DPS goes 3rd, and the melee DPS goes 4th. So we can see Kimbo as our melee DPS. He has that staff right now, and when he's done getting those special attacks off, the orb order resets. So now our South Mage is going to grab it. You can see Invictus has it right there. And he's going to drop it for us. And we only got 1 special attack off last time because we were slow to pick up the staff. So this time we'll shoot 2. 1, 2. And we'll drop that staff for our buddies again. And that pillar is getting low. So at this point you have an option. You can either hold on to that staff and carry it with you to the next pillar, or drop it and communicate with your buddies. Don't forget the staff, because you do not want that staff to be sitting on the ground when that pillar falls right there, right? Because then how would someone go and pick it up? They're going to have to run over there and risk tanking a hit. So at this point, we just want to finish off the boss. We'll continue passing the staff, but everyone is mostly out of special attack at this point. I do have the option to pick up the staff right now if it was given to me, because wearing a light bearer, right, you will get more special attack back faster than your buddies do. But you don't need it, and you can save that special attack. The second pillar should not fall as long as everyone got 3 full special attacks off on the boss and continued either whipping or maging the boss throughout. But we're going into phase 2 of the fight, and this is probably the hardest part to learn in the Theater of Blood, and that is the Verzik walk, which we're doing right now. So when she spawns crabs, if one of them's heading toward you, like this blue one, wait for it to get close and then run away, and that'll pop it. And if you pop it correctly, you might only take 8 damage, you might take none at all. There is a technique to pop the crabs and never take damage from them. But for now, just wait for that crab to get close to you and run away as soon as it gets about 2 tiles away from you, right? And that'll pop the crab. But we're doing a Verzik walk right now. What I like to do is I like to walk back when I see the cabbage pop on the ground. So here we go. Pop, walk back. Walk back. Pop, walk back. Right? Every time it splats on the ground is when I click to walk back. And then I get right back on the boss, right? And you can see this pattern. I am using a visual metronome, so if that helps you, you can use that visual metronome as well. But what I like to watch for during the whip walk, it's a little different for a scythe walk, but what I like to watch for the whip walk is that when that cabbage pops on the ground, that's when I walk back, right? Now the purple crab right here spawning, it needs to be hit with a poison weapon. So that would either be your toxic blowpipe, or we're using a whip, right? And the poison whip works. But when she enters sub 35% health, this is a mage phase, and this is where she starts spawning red crabs, which we need to hurry up and nuke down. But at this point on, for the rest of the phase, everyone is praying mage, right? Everyone has their mage prey on, and we're just camping it. And we're trying to take down these blood crabs. Get them really low. You can kill it if you want. See, we killed it right there. But you want to get it really low. And they do wander. You can see, look, this one wandered all the way over here. So I'll actually help them and get one head off on that little red crab down there. And we don't need to kill it. See, it's only got like 1 health left. And we're not even going to worry about it. See, look, it died and it healed her, but it only healed her at 12. So if they're very low HP, it's not really a big deal. Don't waste DPS getting that last hit off on the crab. You can just get back on the boss. They don't matter when they're very low health. So at this point, we're just continuing on with our web walk. The nice thing about the end of P3 is that she doesn't throw that many cabbages anymore. But if you're camping Prey Mage, which you should be, and she does throw a cabbage and it hits you, it's going to hit you hard. It's going to hit you in the 40s or 50s. But she's below 10% health, and at this point we can skip crabs and go right on the boss and finish off that last bit of DPS on the boss. And she's going down and entering the third and final phase of not only the fight, but the entire raid. And what she's going to do is she's going to choose a tank. And it looks like she chose Invictus. So if you don't like tanking, if you don't feel comfortable tanking, if you're worried about tanking, you can kind of stand under the boss like Invictus is trying to do right now. And you want to stand fully underneath the boss, all the way in the center. Continue to walk around while you're standing under the boss and stay in her center, because she just kind of wanders. And if she's wandering and getting away from you, right, if she can end up getting you into her melee distance, she'll have a hard time passing tank. But if you stand under the boss directly underneath her, you can pass that tank to somebody else, especially if you don't feel comfortable being the tank. So here comes webs. And webs, we all sync up. See this? And we always hit in the middle. So there we go. Middle hit. Middle hit. And everyone does the same thing. We stay in sync, right? Everyone got in sync. And if you find that you're trying to do webs and you're not in sync, or you fell out of sync with everybody else, rather than trying to catch up and be in sync, if you don't know how to do that, which is a slightly advanced strategy, right? You can just run away. You can run away to the perimeter. If you don't know how to sync up webs and you find that you're out of sync, just run to the perimeter and shoot some mage hits off from the perimeter. It's not a big deal. We do get really nice DPS off if we are all web walking, but it's not necessary. And if you fall out of pattern, you can get out to the perimeter. But on yellows, this is the point where you want to fully top off your health. So I'm fully 115 health, 99 prayer, and I'm fully potted up and ready to go. Because when she reaches 20% health, we're going to start nuking the boss. That's when the tornadoes spawn, and you can see she's down, and I got my claws on. So there's a claw spec, and we're going to do another claw spec, and those tornadoes spawn, and we want to nuke her down as fast as possible, and she throws a green ball. And that's why you wanted your health to be completely topped off during yellows, because if you weren't topped off and that green ball is on you, it's going to slap you for a full 75. And that can be an instant one-shot if you didn't use the opportunity on yellows to top off your health, right? So make sure when those yellow pools spawn, because nothing's really going on during that time, you can't even hit the boss. It's a great time to get your health up, fully top off your health, get your prayer up, re-drink your super combat potion, and be ready for the final push, right? But the boss is down, and that was an example of how to run Theater of Blood as a North Freezer when the entire team has sub 500 mil budget run. So thanks a lot to the boys. I really appreciate all you guys for running with me. I appreciate you coming with me on this example learner run. And I hope that you guys watching, I hope that you learned a lot as well. I hope that you